Hello friends, in this video we will be discussing about judicial review in India. We all know that judicial review is one of the most important topic in judiciary, particularly ever since 1970. There is so much of stress on role of judiciary and role of ninth schedule and role of Supreme Court and High Courts. So we will be discussing whether judicial review is part of basic structure or not. What does it mean by judicial review? And the functions of judicial review. Also, we'll discuss the importance, the significance of judicial review. Then the last, we'll discuss way forward, which means how the judicial review should be exercised by the courts of India. First and foremost, my dear friends, we all know that many provisions of the Indian Constitution were borrowed or got inspired from the then existing constitutions like United Kingdom and USA. When it comes to judicial review, we borrowed this provision from the United States of America. We all know that the interpretation of the Constitution lies with the Supreme Court of India, or that is with the judiciary. Supreme Courts and High Courts interprets what is law, what is Constitution. Not just in India, in rest of the world also, the major democratic and constitution countries also, the constitutions are interpreted by their judiciary, the respective countries' judiciary. However, judicial review is not exclusively mentioned in the Constitution of India, as you could see on the screen. Judicial review mentioned in the Constitution? The answer is no, it is not part of the Constitution. However, there are some articles which bring to the dimension of judicial review. There are certain articles like Article 13, as you could see on the screen, Article 32, and Article 226, and there are other articles, as you could see on the screen. All these articles bring forth for the judicial review in India. So now we will try to understand what does it mean by judicial review. As you could see on the screen, judicial review means review by the judiciary. What? Review by the judiciary the actions of the government, be it legislative actions, judicial actions, and most importantly, administrative actions. Judiciary could be defined what? And review by the Supreme Courts and the High Courts. So, who enjoy this power of judicial review? So, I would like to ask a simple question. Which courts of India? We all know that there are so many courts in India. And which courts do enjoy this power? The answer is only Supreme Court and High Courts enjoy the review, that is judicial review powers in India. Then what is the function of judicial review? What are the various functions of the judicial review? The first and foremost function of the judicial review is to legitimize the actions of the government. What? To legitimize the actions of the government. And secondly, and most importantly, to protect, to safeguard the Constitution of India. We all know that ever since 1973, most important constitutional provisions are safeguarded. The doctrine, which is called as a Basic Structure Doctrine, which was interpreted by the judiciary. So the question arises here is whether judicial review is part of the Basic Structure Doctrine or not. The answer is yes, it is part of the basic structure. It was defined as part of the basic structure. It is clarified in this case, which is called Indira Gandhi versus Rajnarayan case in 1975. Since it is part of the basic structure doctrine, so now we'll try to understand the importance of judicial review. So the first and foremost thing that judicial review does is constitutionalism. It will safeguard what? The Constitution. It makes sure that rule of law is followed. It makes sure that the law is supreme in the governing the country. And it also checks on arbitrary actions of the government, and be it administrative and executive actions of the government. And most importantly, we all know that part 3, which are called as the fundamental rights. It is custodian of fundamental rights. It is protector of fundamental rights. So the rights of the individual would be safeguarded through the judicial review. And most importantly, we all know that Article 50 of DPSPs provide for separation of judiciary, executive, and most importantly, legislature. Precisely, Article 50 of DPSP say that judiciary should be protected and should be independent from legislature and executive. And most importantly, we all know that this judicial review helps us, helps the society, helps the India, helps the people from the actions of the union executive and state executives, that is governments in India. Now we will conclude our discussions on judicial review. So I'd like to ask you simple questions. As you could see on the screen, there are 6 fundamental rights in India. So who safeguard these fundamental rights? We all know that the makers of the constitution, that is Constituent Assembly, vested this power with the Supreme Court of India. So originally, the Supreme Court is vested with protecting the fundamental rights, and later on, this was given to the high courts also. So in India, who protect fundamental rights? As you could see on the screen, Supreme Court and the high courts in India are the custodians and protectors of the fundamental rights. So this makes judicial review very significant to the judiciary and to the successful availability and implementation and enjoying of these rights which are guaranteed by the constitution. So now we will try to discuss way forward with respect to judicial review in India. As you could see on the screen, my dear friends, we all know that there is a concept of checks and balances, separation of powers, which was formulated by Montesquieu, and this thing which is called judicial review, it definitely touches or encroaches separation of powers. We should keep in mind separation of powers is not fundamental, is not exclusively part of the Indian constitution. It is one of the part, but it is not exclusive part like USA constitution. So then what should be kept in mind? Checks and balance is needed. Not just that, there is very important requirement from judicial review, from the judiciary. It has to let the government function freely without any fear of judicial review. So the solution for this problem is the use of judicial reviews. It use it in such a manner, if necessary only, not unnecessarily, in a judicious manner. So the answer for this checks and balances is, as you could see on the screen, find equilibrium between these 3 organs of the government: legislature, executive, and judiciary. Why it is needed find equilibrium? To sustain what? Constitutional values which are enshrined in the constitution. I hope this video helps you to understand judicial review in India, and most importantly, my name is MK Reddy, and thank you for watching.